Camus, the myth of Sisyphus, absurdism, and the choice to embrace life. The rock that never rests. Imagine a man condemned by the gods to an eternal punishment. He must push a massive boulder up a steep mountain, only to watch it roll back down every single time. No escape, no end, no meaning. For most, that sounds like pure despair. But for Albert Camus, this myth, the story of Sisyphus, captures the essence of human existence. Life, Camus argues, is just as repetitive, just as meaningless, and just as absurd. And yet, his message is not one of hopelessness. It's a call to revolt, to live, to embrace life, even when it makes no sense. This is not a story about defeat. It's a philosophy of defiance. In this video, we'll explore Camus' philosophy of absurdism, why he believed life has no inherent meaning, how humans struggle against this truth, and why he believed that, despite it all, we must imagine Sisyphus happy. The absurd condition. Camus begins with a simple, unsettling question. Is life worth living? Unlike philosophers who sought abstract meaning or divine order, Camus starts with lived experience. The feeling that arises when life's routine suddenly feels meaningless. We go to work, eat, sleep, repeat. One day we ask, why? That moment of disorientation, when the familiar suddenly feels strange, is what Camus calls the absurd. The absurd is not in the world alone, nor in us alone. It's born from the collision between our need for meaning and the world's silence. We crave purpose, but the universe offers none. Camus doesn't see this as a tragedy to fix, but as a truth to face. We cannot escape the absurd. We can only confront it honestly. He writes, "The absurd is born of this confrontation between the human need and the unreasonable silence of the world. The temptation of escape. When faced with the absurd, most people seek escape." Camus identifies three main forms of evasion: philosophical escape, religious hope, and suicide. First, suicide. For Camus, it is the most serious philosophical question. If life has no meaning, why not end it? But he rejects this option. To kill oneself is to admit defeat. It's to flee from the absurd instead of facing it. Then there's religion. Many turn to faith to impose meaning upon a meaningless world. Camus respected belief, but for him, faith was another form of escape, a philosophical suicide. By surrendering reason to faith, we deny the absurd rather than confront it. Even rational systems of philosophy that promise total understanding, like Hegel's, are to Camus forms of evasion. They try to explain away the absurd through logic or progress. Camus refuses all of it. The only honest response, he says, is to live without appeal, to accept the absurd and live fully in spite of it. The revolt against the absurd. If life has no meaning, how should we live? Camus answers with one word: revolt. Revolt does not mean rebellion against society, but an inner defiance, the refusal to give in to despair or illusion. It means acknowledging life's meaninglessness, yet continuing to live passionately within it. Camus writes, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart." This revolt transforms despair into power. When we no longer expect life to make sense, we become free to experience it fully. Without divine purpose or cosmic justice, every moment becomes ours to claim. We stop living for an afterlife or ultimate reason. We live for the act of living itself. The absurd hero is not the one who understands life, but the one who endures it, feels it, and embraces it without illusion. Sisyphus as the absurd hero. Sisyphus, the condemned king, is Camus' symbol of the human condition. Each day, he pushes the same rock, knowing it will fall again. To the gods, this punishment is meaningless. But to Camus, it is heroic, because Sisyphus is conscious of his fate and still keeps pushing. The moment he walks back down the hill, knowing what awaits him, is for Camus the most powerful. He knows there is no hope, and yet he refuses despair. His lucidity becomes his triumph. Camus concludes, one must imagine Sisyphus happy. Why? Because his awareness turns punishment into victory. He owns his fate. He transforms suffering into self-assertion. He may not conquer the rock, but he conquers meaninglessness through his will to persist. In that sense, Sisyphus is not a tragic figure. He is a symbol of resilience, of finding joy not in the result, but in the act of pushing the rock itself, living without appeal. Camus insists that to live the absurd life, one must live without appeal, without leaning on divine meaning, moral justification, or ultimate purpose. This doesn't mean nihilism, it means lucid living. When nothing is guaranteed, every experience becomes precious. Art, love, beauty, and friendship gain intensity precisely because they are fleeting. Camus writes that the true artist or lover of life embraces each moment as self-contained without needing a larger story. To live absurdly is not to give up on joy, it's to find it in the here and now, in the sensual fullness of existence. This attitude turns ordinary life into rebellion. Each smile, each act of kindness, each creative gesture becomes a statement. I know it's meaningless, but I choose to live anyway. The absurd man. Camus' absurd man is one who lives in full awareness of the absurd and yet continues to act. He doesn't seek meaning, he creates value through action. He seeks intensity instead of eternity. Camus gives examples like Don Juan, the lover who lives passionately without seeking lasting love, and the actor who embodies many lives on stage, fully aware that none of them are real. Both live with vitality, aware that nothing lasts, and that is precisely what makes it beautiful. The absurd man rejects both resignation and false hope. He commits to life without delusion. He finds freedom not in what he hopes for, but in what he chooses right now. Absurd freedom. Camus's freedom is not the freedom to do whatever one wants. It's freedom from illusions. When you realize there's no cosmic meaning, no destiny, no divine script, you become free to live authentically. This freedom, however, demands courage. It strips away comforting lies. You are no longer promised justice, purpose, or eternal reward, but you gain something greater, the ability to live truthfully. Camus writes, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become so absolutely free that your very existence is an act of rebellion. In that sense, every conscious choice, every refusal to surrender becomes an act of philosophical defiance. Quiet revolution against the absurd. Love, art, and creation. Camus believed that love and art are two of the deepest ways to embrace the absurd. Love is absurd. It's temporary, irrational, and vulnerable. Yet we love anyway. Art is absurd. It gives form to a meaningless world. Yet through creation, we find purpose. For Camus, art doesn't explain life, it celebrates it. To create beauty in the face of meaninglessness is a form of revolt. The artist, like Sisyphus, knows the rock will roll down again, yet he keeps sculpting, painting, writing, dreaming. To live absurdly is not to despair, but to say yes to life, even when it refuses to make sense. The courage to live. Camus' philosophy ultimately rejects both nihilism and false hope. He does not tell us to believe, nor to despair, but to live courageously between them. To wake up each morning, aware of life's absurdity, and still choose to go on. That, for him, is the essence of heroism. His is not a philosophy of resignation, but of lucid joy. By embracing the absurd, we free ourselves from illusion and open ourselves to the raw beauty of existence. The laughter, the pain, the fleeting, the real. Camus' challenge is simple, yet profound. If the universe gives us no meaning, then we must give meaning to it ourselves. The smile of Sisyphus. So, picture Sisyphus once more, standing on that mountainside, sweat on his brow, watching the boulder roll down again. He knows it will never end, but somewhere deep inside he smiles. Because even in endless repetition, he has found his freedom. Camus reminds us, the absurd is not the enemy. It is the condition of being alive. To live is to push, to strive, to love, and to create. Knowing it might all crumble tomorrow, yet doing it anyway. That is not tragedy. That is triumph. So, what about you? Will you curse the rock, or will you push it with pride? If you found meaning in this exploration of Camus' philosophy, like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the great thinkers who challenge us to live fully, freely, and absurdly.